No human on the planet can derogate this rule. Whether you're the CEO of a Silicon Valley startup or a bike rider in the poor country of Nigeria, you will eventually stay in a more or less comfortable bed and remain almost still for a good 7 hours. But the similitudes stop there. Some people are going to feel refreshed and confident, and some others are going to snooze the alarm for 5 minutes until they realize that it's fucking 9 a.m. and my boss is gonna kill me. God. You've guessed it, I'm one of the latter. My name is N, Monsieur N, and I'm proud to say that I will sleep when I die. There's a saying in my country that can be translated to, if you sleep, life sleeps. And for a long time, I thought if you want to be any good in this life, you had to make sacrifices. Sleep sacrifices. And if I'm speaking to you today, it's because I was wrong. If you don't negotiate your sleep, I learned it the hard way. Hello, curious mind. Today we are talking serious matters. Sleep. Aside from being tired the following day, I don't think people realize what dangers a lack of sleep can cause. Almost no one is fully aware of the short-term, midterm, and long-term consequences of insufficient sleep. That's why I said stupid things like, I will sleep when I'll be dead. But how true is that? And is there any long-term consequences of not sleeping enough? Well, yeah, death. Between 1994 and 1999, scientists from the University of Athens and Harvard Medical School enrolled more than 23,000 Greece participants to see the effect of sleep on their health. This was the period where more and more people were abandoning their usual afternoon nap or siesta for a more modern lifestyle. They wanted to see if such a small degree in sleep habit could have any potential harm. Those who didn't nap during the day had a 37% more risk to die from coronary disease relative to the others. And a lot of disease has been linked to poor sleeping habits, diabetes, cancer, and even Alzheimer. Heck, by correcting sleep issues early enough on some patients, we have been able to delay Alzheimer's first symptoms for 5 to 10 years. This should make us consider two things. First, every hour of sleep you don't care about increases the risk of having disease later in your life. And two, some of those diseases will make the end of their life very uncomfortable. Okay, let's be fair. Maybe you can't really connect with another version of you, or you think you are actually sleeping enough. Then the question is there any midterm consequences of a small lack of sleep? Yes. Just imagine you spend the whole day working on the launch of your new app. Then you went for an after work to celebrate with colleagues. You didn't drink because, well, you're responsible. Around 2 a.m., you yawn a bit from tiredness, so you say goodbye to your friends, and you are driving carefully through a cold night. You reach a crossroad, and for a moment, a brief moment, you doze out. The same brief moment, a Porsche carrying a small family drove in front of you. The two cars almost crashes. Fortunately, everything was good, nobody died. Let's not be dramatic. So what exactly happened, and how exactly did it happen? When you lack sleep, you will often have microsleep. They are very brief moments where your brain completely disconnects from the external world. I'm not saying like it's late to respond, it actually stopped responding at all. Like a car running at 50 miles per hour with no one on the command. Where the hell do I come out with it? I mean, first of all, people can learn to be cautious, especially when driving. And second, this is certainly a very rare incident that will almost never happen to you, right? Wrong. In a mind-blowing experiment, researcher David Deans proved how dangerous a lack of sleep could actually be. And I'm going to try to very briefly summarize his researches to show a concrete loss of function while sleep deprived. Deans and colleagues asked participants to press a button when a flash of light appeared randomly on the computer screen. They monitored 4 groups of subjects for 14 days straight. The first group was sleep restricted for 3 days straight and then allowed to sleep normally again. The second group was sleep restricted for 4 hours each day for 14 days straight. The third group was sleep restricted for 6 hours a day for the same duration. And the fourth group slept the normal amount anyone should, which is 8 hours a day. They were the control group. As the participants were becoming more and more sleep restricted, their performance started to decline. They weren't just slow to answer, they actually stopped answering altogether sometimes. a phenomenon called microsleep, as the scientific study further explained. It's obvious that the 3-day group performance quickly dropped, but after 10 days, the 4-hour group performance was as bad as the 3-day group the second day. What? In plain English, right? Okay, that means sleeping 4 hours a day for 10 days puts your cognitive abilities at the level of someone who didn't sleep for 2 freaking days. But wait, what about the third group? After 11 days of a 6-hour sleep schedule, your performance matched someone who didn't sleep for a full day. And if this wasn't sad enough, I have another Titanic level tragedy. As the day went by, the performance of the 4 and 6-hour group kept on plummeting. They'll probably have continued dropping if the experience had continued. That means it's not the level of sleep deprivation, but the cumulative deficit of sleep that correlates with your decrease in performances. And we usually accumulate small sleep debt thinking that there's going to be no consequence. That's right, almost everyone. But the good news is, if you feel pretty good, that means you don't need much sleep to begin with. Cool, right? Wrong. As the study said, surprisingly, by the end of the 14 days of sleep restriction, when performance was at its worst level, some in the 4 and 6-hour sleep period condition reported feeling only slightly sleepy. Even though their performance didn't stop declining, they felt less and less tired than any other one. Let's take a pause and see what this actually means. Most people don't sleep enough because they want to do more. But what study tells us is that sacrificing your sleep to do so will actually retard your promotion or the book you're writing. And don't even tell me that you catch back on sleep during the weekend. After 3 days of full sleep for all of the group, your performances never match the control group. There is no short of things like paying your sleep debt. I'm going to sound depressing, but this doesn't only apply to your mental health. Look, sleep is the state of consciousness where your body tries to repair everything that went wrong throughout the day, whether it's physically or mentally. The more you're sleep deprived, the more you're at risk of small mistakes that will hurt you physically. Research shows that only 19 hours without sleep makes you as focused as someone who's legally drunk. Remember the guy who almost crashed his car a few minutes ago? Even though he didn't drink alcohol, he was as tipsy as his other friend. This works for sport too. If you lift weight or run on the weekend, your performances drop consequently. You are more tired, you can't live as heavier. And according to studies, chronic lack of sleep increases the chances of injury in a season from 30 to 70%. What's the concrete cost of not sleeping enough for 1 to 5 years? Is this side business you couldn't finish because you couldn't focus, or your knee injury during a run, and the car accident that cost you a lot of money because for half a second you lose your attention? But what if you don't give a shit about 1 or 5 years? What if you're in this new job and you gotta prove yourself, or you're a student and you also have a side job? Heck, you are 1 week away from this very important exam. Then if you just pull up all-nighter for a week or so for the sake of your word, you're probably safe, right? Wrong. If it wasn't scary enough, lack of sleep also had almost immediate consequences. And yes, tiredness is one of the risks, obviously, but some other will make you rethink even studying all night before the exam. All-nighter, the field of expertise of most students. They procrastinate the whole year and then try to cram as much information as they possibly can, kindly asking sleep to go and love itself. They have this feeling that they'll be able to hold all the facts long enough to regurgitate all of them during the exam and completely forget about it without a single ounce of guilt. But how true is that? Well, when Matthew Walker, the author of Why We Sleep, the book which shamelessly inspired this video, tests this hypothesis, the results were very, very different. When students didn't sleep the night before and were asked to learn a series of facts, they didn't do significantly better than those who slept. Well, actually, they did significantly worse. They were 40% less capable of remembering the fact they learned, and they didn't even have to take the exam the same day. They were given 2 full days to sleep, to recover, and then when to write it, they still failed. Just imagine yourself sleeping 5 hours a day for the sake of your law class, spending more time learning case studies but actually remembering less and less. What's the point? The reason not sleeping impairs your ability to learn is that it places a burden on your hippocampus, which temporarily holds the facts in your brain before they are transferred to the long-term memory system, the neocortex. Yes, like the RAM and the hard drive of a computer memory chip. Why did it do so bad? It's because during sleep, and especially during NREM sleep, when the activity of the brain is minimal, we can distinguish slow bursts in the brain that are associated with increased learning. The more researchers find those bursts or sleep spindles during sleep, the more words you're likely to remember. This is because those bursts are actually connection between the RAM and the hard drive of your brain, and they transfer information from the short-term fragile to the long-term memory. And even though working the whole night may seem like a good idea, remember that this will ultimately disrupt your following learning session and the following one. And like I said before, there's no such a thing as catching on sleep. Worse, if you actually do that so often that you don't feel tired anymore. Okay, let's be honest, I still wish there was a pill that could let me sleep 6 hours without any risk. I can use this extra time to start an alpaca farm in Chile, but it doesn't exist. And whether it's tomorrow, in a year or 10, you will pay the price for sleeping, because it's such a fundamental function of our body, cognitively and physically speaking. So if you value your work, just not today, but in years from now, and you want to live a fulfilled life, maybe it's time to take action, because sleep matters. And you know what else matters? Gray matters. And I'll see you later.